Level 1, the recruit. The envelope is plain, no return address. Inside, 3 lines of text and a phone number. You call it. A man answers on the second ring. He already knows your name. That's when you understand this isn't an opportunity. It's a selection. You were already chosen before you chose anything. The question was never whether you'd be good at this. The question was whether you'd say yes. You say yes. The training facility isn't underground. It isn't glamorous. It's a beige building in a suburb you never heard of, with fluorescent lights and folding chairs, and a man named Hargrove who speaks like he's reading from a manual he memorized 20 years ago. He tells you that intelligence work is patience, that most of the job is waiting, that the ones who wash out are the ones who need things to happen. You don't need things to happen. You've always been comfortable in the stillness. That's why they picked you. They teach you languages, not fluency. Fluency takes years. They teach you enough to listen, enough to catch a shift in tone, enough to know when someone is lying by the word they chose instead of the word they should have chosen. They teach you how to disappear in a crowd, not literally, behaviorally. You don't wear bright colors. You don't make eye contact first. You match the energy of whatever room you enter. You become background. You're good at it, better than the others. At night in the dormitory, you think about what you left behind. A job, an apartment, a relationship that was already half dead. None of it feels like loss. That's either a sign you were built for this, or a sign something in you was already missing. You don't spend much time deciding which. By week 6, Hargrove shakes your hand and tells you you're ready for placement. You ask what that means. He smiles for the first time. It means someone needs to trust you. Level 2, the asset. Your first posting is a mid-level trade delegation. You are an attaché. Your cover is bureaucratic and boring, which makes it perfect. Nobody watches the man who carries the folders. Your actual job is to cultivate one person, a mid-ranking official named Brennan who has access to procurement schedules. You don't steal anything, you don't plant anything, you befriend them. It takes 4 months. You learn that Brennan drinks scotch, not whiskey, that his marriage is functional but cold, that he resents his supervisor with a quiet intensity he only reveals after the 3rd drink. You file all of this, not in a notebook, in your memory. You were trained to remember everything and write down nothing. When the moment comes, you don't ask him for classified information. You ask him a question that sounds innocent, and he answers it. And he doesn't realize until much later, maybe never, that the answer was exactly what your handlers needed. The debrief lasts 2 hours. Your controller, a woman who goes by Marsh, nods 3 times during your account. That's the highest praise you'll receive. You start to understand the architecture of the work. Information is currency, but relationships at a bank. You don't extract intelligence, you grow it. You tend it like something alive. You make the person feel seen, understood, valued. Then you harvest what they've revealed. The moral dimension of this doesn't hit you the way you expected. You expected guilt, a moment of hesitation, a dream where Brennan's face accuses you. What you feel instead is something closer to professional satisfaction. You're very good at making people trust you. You always have been. The difference now is that you're being paid for it. You file that thought away alongside everything else. Level 3, the double life. You got 2 phones, 2 sets of clothes, 2 ways of speaking. At social events, the kind your cover identity attends, you're warm, slightly self-deprecating, good at listening. People always tell you you're easy to talk to. You agree with them and smile and don't explain why. The other version of you exists in secured locations and encrypted channels and late-night calls where voices don't use names. That version is precise, minimal, operational. The strange thing is, neither version feels fake. You've started to wonder if you ever had a self before this, or if you were always just a mirror held up to whatever room you were in. Your handler changes. Marsh is reassigned. The new one is a man named Calloway who is younger than you expected and significantly harder. He doesn't compliment your work. He identifies what's missing. First debrief, he asks you why you waited 3 weeks to report a conversation that contained actionable intelligence. You tell him you weren't certain it was actionable. That's not your call, he says. You don't argue, but you remember it. Your first real moral line arrives quietly. You've developed a contact, a woman named Elena, assistant to a foreign minister, and she has begun to trust you in a way that has become personal. She tells you things she doesn't tell anyone, not because she thinks you're an intelligence asset, because she thinks she's her friend. You are going to use what she tells you. You notice, she doesn't. The night before the operation, you sit in your apartment and try to locate the feeling that's supposed to live in your chest right now. The one that says, this is wrong. It's there, faint, like a signal from a tower you're driving away from. You let it fade. The operation succeeds. Elena is never arrested, never hurt. She simply loses her position 6 months later due to an administrative reshuffling that she'll never trace back to you. You tell yourself, that's clean. You almost believe it. Level 4. The operator. You've been in the field for 4 years. You don't think about the work the same way you used to. It's not moral or immoral anymore. It's technical. There are objectives, there are methods, there are outcomes. You assess each situation on those terms and move. You're running 3 assets simultaneously. One in a shipping company, one inside a foreign intelligence service, one who doesn't know he's an asset. He thinks you're a journalist. Managing them requires a specific kind of emotional labor. You have to maintain 3 different versions of yourself, 3 different levels of intimacy, 3 different sets of promises that you may or may not intend to keep. You are very good at this. Calloway gives you a team, 2 support staff, 1 analyst, 1 surveillance specialist. You're no longer just a collector, you're an operation. The money is better, not in a way you can display. It arrives quietly and lives in accounts that don't appear on your tax returns. You clear $140,000 in a calendar year that technically shows you earning $62,000. The gap is invisible. You've been trained to keep it that way. But the real currency at this level isn't money. It's information you haven't reported yet. Every collector develops a reserve, things you hold back, not out of treason, not yet, but out of leverage, out of self-preservation. The system will use you up and rotate you out and classify your file if something goes wrong. You've watched it happen to others. The man who came before you in this posting was disavowed over a decision that Calloway made, not him. His name now doesn't officially exist. You start to think about your own name, what it's attached to, who controls it. The answer is uncomfortable. You begin to notice the other side paying attention to you, not overtly. A car parked 1 street over, twice in a week. An email in a dead drop that shouldn't be there. A question from a contact that's slightly too precise to be innocent. Someone has identified you. You report this to Calloway. He tells you it's expected, that it means you're effective. He doesn't tell you what to do about it. You start thinking about that. Level 5, the contact. The approach comes in Vienna. It always comes in Vienna. That's almost funny. A man sits next to you at a cafe and orders the same coffee you're drinking and says 7 words in a language you weren't supposed to know he knew. You don't move, you don't respond, you finish your coffee. That night you write the encounter in your report, but you don't include the 7 words. The man's name, the name you look up through channels you shouldn't have access to, is Volkov. He's GRU, not a field officer, an architect. He designs operations, he doesn't run them. The fact that he approached you personally means the approach was the operation. He wants something specific, something that is apparently worth coming out of the architecture to ask for. You go back the next day, he's already there. I know what you want, you say. Then you know what we're offering, he says. You spend the next 6 hours walking the city together, not discussing terms, discussing the nature of the work, who it's really for, what it costs, what it's already cost you, specifically. He's very good at this. You recognize it because you're very good at it too. He's not recruiting you, he's reflecting you, showing you the shape of what you've become from the outside. It's the most honest conversation you've had in 4 years. You don't agree to anything, but you don't say no. Level 6, the traitor. You tell yourself it isn't betrayal. That word requires loyalty to have been real. And loyalty in this work was always a performance. Your organization performed loyalty to its principles while outsourcing moral questions to legal departments and oversight committees that existed to provide cover, not conscience. You performed loyalty to your handlers while holding back intelligence that kept you alive. Everyone performs loyalty, no one practices it. This is what you tell yourself. The first package you pass is small, structural, an organizational chart that Volkov's people could have pieced together from open sources in 3 months. You compress the timeline by providing it directly. That's how you frame it. You're not giving them secrets, you're saving everyone time. You are still the best lawyer you ever met. The payment arrives in a layered structure you helped design. It doesn't look like payment. It looks like a consulting retainer from a shell company in Cyprus. By the time it reaches your account, it's been laundered through 4 jurisdictions and is completely clean. You clear $280,000 in 11 weeks. Your own organization begins to notice anomalies, sources going quiet, operations encountering resistance that shouldn't be there. Callaway runs 2 internal reviews. You are on the review committee for the second one. You find nothing, officially. What you find privately is that one of your own assets, the man who doesn't know he's an asset, has been identified by a third party. Not by Volkov's people, by someone else. The ecosystem is getting complicated. You start running 3 agendas simultaneously. Your official work, your arrangement with Volkov, and a private one, which is the only one that's purely about your survival. The psychological weight of this isn't guilt, it's maintenance, constant cognitive maintenance. Every conversation is a system with variables. Every relationship is a vector. You process people like equations. You haven't had a genuine human interaction in over a year. You've stopped noticing. Level 7, the ghost. Your official identity is suspended, not burned, suspended. You were extracted 6 weeks ago on a pretext your organization believes was real, a health issue, a family matter. You're on indefinite leave. In reality, you've relocated. Small apartment, different city, different name on the lease. Volkov's organization has given you a new infrastructure. Clean phone, clean documents, clean face, a minor procedure in Prague, nothing dramatic. You look like yourself, but don't look like your file photos. You are now fully between worlds. Your original organization is looking for leaks. They haven't identified you yet. They've identified the pattern. They know someone senior has been feeding information. The internal investigation has eliminated 17 people. You're not in their current focus because your extraction was handled clean and because you left them a gift before you went, a genuine piece of intelligence that generated enough results to restore confidence in your loyalty. That was elegant. You know it was elegant. You allowed yourself that much. Volkov's checks in monthly. The relationship has shifted. You're no longer an asset to him. You're something closer to a consultant. He presents problems, you identify solutions. You don't ask what the solutions are used for. You've learned not to need that. The asset you developed, Elena, has rebuilt her career in a different ministry. You find this out through channels. You watch her trajectory from a distance, the way you'd watch weather from inside a building. Present, observed, unreachable. There are nights when you think about who you were at the beginning, the one who called the phone number, the one who thought the work was about something. You don't romanticize it, but you don't dismiss it either. You just watch it from very far away. The hardest thing about level 7 isn't the isolation, it's the competence. You're better at this than you ever been. Every skill is refined, every instinct is sharp. You can read a room in 12 seconds. You can build trust in 40 minutes. You can disappear completely. You just have nowhere to go. Level 8, the architect. Nobody is looking for you anymore. Your original organization officially classified your file 14 months ago. The conclusion was death, a probable drowning in a river in a city where you haven't been in 3 years. There was a body. It wasn't you. You'll never know whose it was, and you've made peace with not knowing. Volkov was reassigned 8 months ago. His replacement doesn't know you personally. They know your value through documents, through results, through the operational footprint you've left across 11 years of work. To them, you're not a person. You're a methodology. You find this appropriate. You now operate on a single directive: continuity. You maintain a network of relationships across 4 intelligence services and 2 private firms that don't officially exist. You don't report to anyone in a way that creates a chain of command. There is no chain. There's a web, and you at a point where the threads meet. The money is no longer relevant as a metric. There's enough. That's all that needs to be true. You live in a house in a country whose language you speak without an accent. Your neighbors believe you work in logistics. You have a dog. The dog is not a cover. You got the dog because you needed something that related to you without an agenda. It helps. When you think about what you've done across all the years, all the levels, all the people, you don't experience it as a film or a list. It's more like weather, something ambient, always present. You've betrayed your country, your organization, the people who trusted you, and several people who didn't trust you but deserved better than what you gave them. You notice with the same clinical precision you apply to everything else. You don't call it guilt. But you don't call it peace either. There is a particular kind of peace either. There's a particular kind of silence that lives at the very top of systems like the one you've built. It isn't comfortable. It isn't the silence of achievement. It's the silence that comes when you've outlasted everything that was supposed to stop you and realized that stopping was never the point. The point was continuation. You continue. Somewhere across the city, a message arrives in a dead drop that you check every Tuesday. Someone wants information. Someone always wants information. You assess the request, you identify the value, you determine whether the cost of providing it is acceptable. You decide. That's the only freedom left. Somewhere in a beige building in a suburb with no name, a new recruit is sitting in a folding chair under fluorescent lights. He's reading 3 lines of text and memorizing a phone number. He thinks the work is about serving something larger than himself. He thinks loyalty is real. He thinks the people above him know more than they're saying, but that the silence is protective. He's right about the last one. He doesn't know what the silence is protecting, but he will.